the passing of Tiana Askew, who was a student at Eddie White Middle School Academy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Also, at this time, I'm going to take a moment of privilege, and I'm going to allow every board member and the superintendent to congratulate the class of 2020, since normally we would have finished our graduation at the Georgia International Convention Center, but due to our situation with the pandemic, we've had to be a little bit more creative with saluting our seniors. I want to first thank Dr. Beasley and the staff, because we were able to purchase graduation signs for all of our students. Some of we had. I'm gonna especially thank the city of Jonesboro, because they got the ball rolling by buying signs for Jonesboro High School. And then we picked the ball up and purchased the remaining signs for the other classes, with the exception also of elite scholars. So at this time, I'm going to start with District 1. Ms. Bowles, do you have any message you'd like to give to our seniors?
Yes, I would like to wish the 2020 class a deep and warm congratulations. I know that this year's close is not at all what you had dreamed, wished, planned, or prayed for. But I just want you to know that your entire board and community love you and are proud of you. Whether you're graduating from high school, graduating from college, or simply being promoted from kinder or fifth to your next big school, really proud of you, and I love you. I would also be remiss if I did not give a quick shout out to the incredible team at Eddie White Academy. I was able to join in with their promotion parade and Northbridge Estates as well. So also shout out to District 1. Thanks, Miss Jessie.
Okay. District 2, Mr. Christmas.
Yes, Miss Marie. Uh-oh. I got too much going on. Come back to me. I got to log out.
Miss Victoria Williams.
Just want to say congratulations to all the seniors. And you can be anything you want to be, even though this virus, don't let it stop you from following your dreams or pursuing a further education. Just let it give you more hope and more power to push forward and do whatever you want to do in life. That's it.
Thank you, Miss Williams. Miss Burrows.
This is the first milestone of life. That is what I've always told my seniors. You have a long way to go and a lot to learn. Never think that you know everything, because you don't. Every day of your life, you will learn something new. You will meet new people that will be stars in your life. And then you'll meet some that are not. Continue as much of the education that you can get, because it will all pay off in the future. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your life. I hope you learn a lot and do as much as you can in the field of education. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Miss Baker.
Good evening. To our graduates, I just want to say thank you for all you've done. This has been a different kind of learning to finish up. And I just want to say thank you to all your hard work. Just as a little sidekick, I think you win the prize for most creative senior skip day, 2.5 months. I think that's pretty good. So I know you've got fantastic things in your future. And what I ask is that you come back and let us know where you're going, what you've done. Your journey's only begun. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Ms. Johnson.
Yes. Congratulations, class of 2020. You did it. You have set history with your marks. Now I want you to continue to make history with the rest of your lives in a good way, in a positive way. You've only just begun and you've got so much to give and to share. We only want to hear great things from the class of 2020. And we know because 2020 is perfect vision, that you're all going to give perfect vision to your future. We wish you the best. You'll be in our thoughts, our prayers, and in our hearts. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Straker.
I would like to congratulate all of the class of 2020 and acknowledge the resilience and strength that you exemplify. I think that this class will definitely go as the most memorable graduating class probably in our history. And I think that you should piggyback off of that and do great things for our country, for our world, for the earth.
Thank you, Mr. Straker. Dr. Anderson.
All right, class of 2020, I just want to say thank you for all of your resilience. Thank you for all that you've done for these last 13 years in school. And I just want to say to the class of 2020 that you will never be forgotten. We know that this pandemic has been a change or a twist for you, but you stuck it out and you were able to get through it. So we just thank you for everything. We congratulate you. And I especially want to congratulate Morrow High School and Forest Park High School for having to come out and, you know, they got their awards in the parking lot and they just went and they did their parade. And I just want to thank the principals, Mr. Manning and Dr. Pitts. Thank you for everything. And I just want to say, class of 2020, you rock.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I'm coming back to Mr. Christmas.
I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm having technical difficulties over here. I was on my computer, then I got to my iPad. But I want to congratulate the class of 2020. You have worked hard. You have persevered through a pandemic, and you will persevere through your matriculation to wherever you're going. I thank the parents. I thank all the faculty and staff that provided the support services for you guys to get through this. I thank all of those IT people who have allowed you to do virtual school and graduate virtually. I thank God for you and God bless.
All right. I actually wrote a little something and I'll read it. Congratulations on your matriculation, class of 2020. 2020 signifies perfect vision, and I know that you are the perfect class with a vision for your future. You are a gifted, resilient group of scholars who, despite a pandemic, distance learning, and a complete upheaval of your lifestyle, still achieve your goals. Please remember that life will have obstacles and that your best laid plans will be derailed, but you can switch to plan B. Despite these obstacles, your future is bright. Remember to always believe in yourself and the higher power. Even if you fail, that is a step in learning how to succeed. And remember to always love yourself because self-love helps to increase your self-esteem, confidence, and happiness. Today, I want you to reflect upon your life, look upward to the sky and see its beauty. On a clear day or cloudy day, the sky represents an infinity of beauty and possibilities. It's a magical window into the land of dreams where anything is possible, a wondrous place where stars wait to be wished upon and the moon lights up the night. Class of 2020, you have the perfect vision. The sky is the limit for you. Best wishes and congratulations. Let me get all of them. Charles Drew High School, Elite Scholars Academy, Forest Park High School, Jonesboro High School, Lovejoy High School, Morrow High School, Mount Zion High School, Mundy's Mill High School, North Clayton High School, the Perry Center, Riverdale High School, and Martha Ellen Stillwell High School. Thank you so much for all you've done this year. And then I'm going to pass it on to the man that can really certify you. That's Dr. Beasley.
Thank you, Ms. Corey. To the board members, thank you all for sharing those wonderful words with our graduates and to our students. I will just say that I know this has been a year for the record books and the history books as well. I'll just say on top of what everyone else has already shared, you know, when you think about this pandemic, this has been a year of disruption, major disruption, global disruption. So I hope that all of you will use your education, pursue more education so you can disrupt those things that should be disrupted, disrupt poverty, disrupt mediocrity, disrupt anything that would hold you back, hold your families back. Use this year to make a statement for the rest of your lives that you will get educated, that you will be a moral person, that you will do good things to lift yourselves, lift your community, lift your family, and lift our county, our state, our nation, and our world. So congratulations. We hope you all enjoy the signs, and we look forward to seeing you at our graduation event at the latter part of June, and want all of you to know that we're very proud of you, and we want you to have a wonderful summer. If you're going to summer school, whether it's online or face-to-face, do your best, and always know that we prepare you to be successful. Thank you, Ms. Corey.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for those kind words. At this time, I will read the ethics statement. In accordance with Board Policy BH, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearance of such conflicts. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of such conflict with respect to any matter of schedule to come before the board at this meeting or appearing on our proposed agenda? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from participation in the matter involved. Hearing none, at this time, we will adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Can I get a second?
I second that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. It has been moved and second that we adopt the agenda, and I'll call roll to get the vote. District 1, Ms. Bowles.
Yes.
Mr. Christmas.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Burrows.
Yes.
Ms. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Straker.
Affirmative.
Okay. And that would be a yes for me. So we have adopted the agenda with a unanimous vote. Now, at this time on our agenda, we are scheduled to go into executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
Madam Chair, I move that we go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
I second the motion.
It has been moved by Dr. Anderson and properly seconded by Ms. Burrows that we go into executive session for personnel matters. I will call the roll again. Ms. Bowles.
Yes.
Mr. Christmas.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Burrows.
Yes.
Ms. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Straker.
Affirmative.
And a yes for me. So a unanimous vote for us to move into executive session. We will return as soon as possible. Board members, remember our procedure for executive session. Please mute your mics.
Ready. It's live.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are resuming our board meeting. We're coming out of executive session where we discuss personnel matters. At this time, we will have our next item on the agenda, which is an update to the board. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Beasley.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, we've got Dr. Simpson and Dr. Wiley. They'll give us two updates. Dr. Wiley will start us off with the strategic planning update, and then we'll toss it over to Dr. Simpson to talk about school leadership and where we are with closing for the school year.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Morsees Beasley. As you are aware, Clayton County Public Schools Administration has been reviewing and revising the vision of the district and the strategic improvement plan. We listened to your questions and comments during the last board meeting and have revised the timeline to include another community update on June 2nd, and all stakeholders, including students, will be invited. Today, we are asking for your input on the vision. I would like to read the vision for our community that has joined us tonight. The vision of Clayton County Public Schools is to produce graduates who have the skill to pursue and successfully accomplish college, post-secondary training, and/or a career opportunity, as a result of their ability to read proficiently and critically in order to use knowledge to solve problems, effectively communicate when writing and speaking, demonstrate noble character as an engaged, well-rounded citizen, exude self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-confidence, leverage technology efficiently and creatively, lead, collaborate, and contribute to a team and community, and manifest passions into realities, and exhibit cultural responsiveness and international competitiveness in order to adapt and keep pace with an ever-evolving world. At this time, I will take your questions, comments, and suggestions.
Board members, do we have any comments? I'll start with Ms. Bowles.
Not at this time, thank you.
Mr. Christmas,
Not at this time.
Ms. Williams,
Not this time.
Ms. Burrows,
Not at this time.
Ms. Baker,
None at this time, thank you.
Ms. Johnson,
Thank you. Not at this time.
Dr. Anderson,
No questions at this time, Madam Chair.
Mr. Straker.
No questions.
Well, I'm going to say this. I found that vision statement to be a bit lengthy. I actually was, if that's the vision statement, I really wanted to know what the mission statement is, because I thought the mission statement might be lengthy. I thought the vision statement is pretty much what you wanted to achieve, and then you would have the mission statement being a little bit more explanatory like this. So I guess I just found it a bit lengthy and wondered where how we arrived at that particular vision statement.
Well, during our sessions with NISL, the National Institute for School Leadership, during all of our training and meetings, we reviewed quite a few vision statements from organizations around the world, from school systems around the world, not just here in the United States. And we noticed that the high-functioning school systems have longer, more explicit, and more detailed visions. So we decided to adopt that method so that everyone in our community will understand exactly what we strive to be within the next 3 to 5 years. We have not looked at the mission just yet because we're chunking it right now. We're starting with our vision statement, getting everyone on board with the vision, and then our mission statement is going to say exactly how we're going to work on achieving all of those bullet points that you see in our vision. but there was a reason we chose a longer vision statement, and it's because of the research that we've seen over the past year.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at your timeline
Yes, ma'am.
and I see, that the community, you'll have a community update. I guess you'll send it to the community and then
Yes,
have virtual meetings. Is that correct?
that is correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, just make sure that the board members are able to go to this, to be involved, because right now, I guess the point that I'm making is I don't really see any involvement from the board. That I understood that you all did your the study, but I don't see any board involvement. And if it's the vision statement actually is representative of the board, so I would like for us to be able to be involved in those meetings and have some input.
Absolutely. We'll make sure that you receive all the information. Personally, I'll send it to Dr. Beasley so that he can ensure that you get the information that you need in order to join us in these meetings.
Okay, I mean, it's very it's a great statement. I just think about some places where students are required to recite the vision. And I think I think about Joe Clark in the movie where he had the kids, I had to know the school song. And I think if this was a requirement for me to be promoted, I think I probably would fail, because I just can't see me memorizing all of this. So it just seemed like it could be just a little bit less, but it's a great job. Thank you, Dr. Wiley.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Good evening. Is that me that's up next? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. We can
Yes,
hear you.
sir.
Good,
Yes,
good.
Dr.
Okay,
Simpson.
good. Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Beasley, and community at large. What you have before you, what's been sent in your board package, is a document that outlines the exemplary work that's taking place with the 5 assistant superintendents, as well as the principals and assistant principals. While I won't belabor the point in going through all of it, I would just like to call your attention, if you have the document before you, just some of the work that's in progress. Some might think, it's easy to believe that not much is being done, or not much is going on, but there's some extensive and some very, very specific and detailed work, as you can see outlined in the document, of what's taken place since the time schools were closed back in March. Just some of the things that we know are regularly taking place, obviously with caps and gowns, as we get toward virtual graduations and a live graduation. But the areas highlighted in yellow are the things that are in process, or the actions that are in process right now. Senior grades are being posted. Obviously, this is the time that takes place, with the last day of school having been last Friday. The distribution of diplomas, grades for 9th through 11th grade is being finalized at this time. K-8 is being finalized. 5th through 8th grade textbooks, which is being finalized, and there's a schedule with dates, specific dates, as to when that's going to take place. The closeout of students from support services side, with SST, IEP, and 504 plan information. All of this is taking place during this time. The closeout of clinics, virtual student registration, which will be going to an online platform for registration in the fall. That is actually in progress as well. Additionally, collection of library books, instruments for our middle and high school students. We're having to retrieve those instruments, and they have to go through a process with the company of those instruments being cleaned, repaired, and ready to issue out as we get closer to the opening of school. As well as athletic equipment. The collection of that is taking place as well. So those are a number of things that I just highlighted because they're in progress, but the other items listed are shaded in green are completed. And then obviously those in white are some dates that are scheduled to take place. So again, I didn't want to go over the entire document since you've received it, but if there are any questions specific to where we are in terms of what we're doing as it relates to closeout, myself along with the assistant superintendents stand ready and prepared to answer any specific questions at this time.
Board members, do we have any questions?
I have a comment.
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Go ahead, Ms. Burrows.
Um, I couldn't believe all that was on the list. And I made it a point to say that I wanted Dr. Simpson to know that I'm really proud of his work
Thank
or
you.
their
Thank you.
work.
That's exactly what I was going to echo. Yes, ma'am. It's a team effort. Thank you.
Yes.
And I
Any
So
guess
they
other,
get
Ms. Williams?
will they get their diplomas before any graduations? Is that what it's saying up there? Like they're gonna get them in the mail or something first before anything happens?
That's in progress. Yes, ma'am.
So they'll receive it before graduation is what you're saying?
That's all going to be a part of the process with the virtual graduations coming up. So that Dr. Dunn, I'm not certain she's actually on the call to speak specifically when they should receive those diplomas. Dr. Dunn, are you on?
Yes, I'm on the call, and the students are receiving their diplomas per their request, because we have some students going into the military or in going straight into college and need their diplomas early. So yes, we are giving them their diplomas early upon request, but the remainder will be given out at their graduation ceremony or virtually. If it's a virtual ceremony, then of course we'll arrange for them to pick their diplomas up after the ceremony. But if it's a traditional ceremony, then it will be given out with at the end, as we do every year. So it's basically based upon the request of the student, but they do have access to their transcripts, which will be ready for them on the 5th of June.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I don't see any, I'm looking at everyone trying to see if I can figure out from your facial expressions if you have any questions, since I actually have a full screen tonight. But one of the things that I wish you all would address is that I'm very, as Ms. Burrow said, I'm very proud of the work that you all have done to close out school. But I keep getting asked these questions about what are we doing next year? And I know that Dr. Beasley, you've mentioned, I think you all have probably been thinking about something, but can you just give us, we know it's a question mark, but can you just let the public kind of hear some ideas that you all have in mind for next year?
Thank you, Ms. Corey. I'll just share with you and the board and our public. We're looking at, and Dr. Simpson can also weigh in as he sees the need to do so. We're looking at basically three options. Our parents are completing a survey right now about how they felt about the past two and a half months of school, plus their feelings about virtual learning, how comfortable they are with their kids coming back in August. The first day of school will be August 3rd. So we're looking at clearly a face-to-face where everybody comes back on August 3rd, depending on the data. We're looking at a virtual option, and we're looking at a blended option. We're in the process of developing even a virtual academy. So our goal is at the June work session, the end of June work session, we're going to be bringing to you our best thinking and to share with the board and our community our reopening plan, realizing that right now at the beginning of at the end of May, we're still 2 months away from August 3rd. So we're going to bring you our best thinking. We're going to show you our framework, our decision-making framework, and then we're going to just continue to monitor the situation until at some point in July and make what we believe is the best decision or implement what we believe to be the best option that always places the safety of our students and staff first. And then that, of course, provides our students the opportunity to learn at very high levels. And so, again, we'll bring you our best thinking. I can tell you, and Dr. Simpson, I'll toss it to you. I know that the school leadership, the task force, they are working diligently to develop all of those options.
Yeah, Dr. Beasley, thanks. And it's not much more that I can add. It's just the level of the level of creativity and thinking that's being put into it will certainly land us in a place that we will be able to provide you with options, but I would venture to say that these options are probably going to be something that's going to be a part of what public education is going to look like in the future. These are options that we probably should have had, because quite essentially is that now we're catching up with the technology. The technology has always been there, and so we're catching up with the technology, and it's almost forcing us to do so. So it's going to look different, obviously, from system to system. But as Dr. Beasley stated, we're going to put ourselves in our communities, in the schools, in the students and parents in the best situation possible for them to have an environment that's conducive to teaching and learning, with safety being obviously one of the most important things that we'll be considering.
I have a question.
Yes,
When
Ms.
were
Williams.
when were these surveys given out, and how were they administered to the parents?
The surveys are they were sent to everyone's email. They're on Infinite Campus as well, and they're on they're on the website and on the social media platforms. And I must say, normally our parents respond very well to our surveys. So, Ms. Williams, I know you're a parent in the district.
Yeah,
Check
and I
Infinite
didn't get one.
Campus.
I'm looking for mine now.
Yeah, you probably just got so many other emails, but check your Infinite Campus. It's right there in the Infinite Campus announcements as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I wanted to say with your task force, I've been asked this on a couple of Facebook live chats. I wish you all, if you have your task force, I wish you all would add some parents or some other people. Maybe, I don't know if you all are doing like Zoom, meetings like this, virtual meetings, because I know that Dr. Beasley, you had mentioned about the virtual academies. And I know if I were a parent now, I would be very scared to send my child back, not knowing, how people will be. Because like I noticed on Dr. Simpson's list, you all are going to have teachers come back to do some things with their classroom. And I'm just have a worry about even our employees coming back. Would we be checking for, like, for example, I was supposed to go back to work. They asked us questions about, have we have a fever? Have we been associated with anybody that's had the virus or whatever? I know there's some things that we need to even check with our own employees before they are in the building. I know we keep talking about social distancing, but things like taking temperatures, and I know Ms. Johnson had sent in an email today, which made a very good point. When we looked at what the CDC is telling us to do, have the kids 6 feet apart, and they make all these decisions because they have a task force. It seems like they haven't had any educators, but when we have classes of 28 kids, you can't move desks that far apart. Even they said, they want this distance, but just trying to get the kids to school in the morning. They're saying put them on the bus, have them a seat apart. As it is, we have a shortage of bus drivers. It would take us a couple of hours just to get kids to school in the morning with those guidelines. So if we could just, with the task force, add some people that could really, bring something to the table. And like I said, you're getting the surveys, but I don't know if maybe you might want to include our PTA people, regional
Well,
people.
let me make sure we're clear. We have, first you should know that Clayton County is represented at several levels. We're at the national level. We're working with we have a voice. We're not necessarily on one of the state committees, but we are meeting regionally, and the people we meet with regionally have a voice at the state level. We have a metro superintendents and others we're meeting, and then our local task force. I will also be looking at a reopening school task force that will be meeting in January. That will include parents and leaders within the community as well. And so we ask the parents to complete the surveys because that will help inform our decisions as well. I can assure you that when we bring the plan to you at the end of June, you will see our we understand a lot of the social distancing and the guidelines, they're just not that practical. And so we're going through all of the guidelines, and we're going to land on the options that we believe are the most doable, the most practical, but also that adhere to safety and security for our students and our faculty our employees. And so you'll see that when we bring that to you at the end of June. Honestly, and you all should know this, school systems are, everybody's got guidelines, as you know, from the White House to the Capitol, to the governor's office, but nobody's taking responsibility for making a definitive decision. They're going to leave that up to us. And so we're going to do our best to make the best decision for our community here in Clayton County. And I can assure you, we're looking at all the data, all the guidelines, and we're looking at all the options. And so we'll bring our best thinking to you at the end of June.
Yes, Madam Chair, may I add one comment?
Yes.
Yeah, just so that you know, what's already been delivered to the school, all staff will be wearing masks and gloves when they come in next week.
Okay.
They're only asked to go to their specific classrooms, only, and then leave. So I just wanted to make certain that you all were aware that they won't be gathering. They're going directly to their classrooms with masks, with gloves, cleaning out their rooms, and then they will be leaving. And so, we wanted to make sure that we, practice all of what, or adhere to all of what the social guidelines speak to. And I wanted to make sure that everyone was informed of that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sampson.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Goree, I'm sorry, Ms. Bowles, I just added in the chat box that parents are on the task force and students. I forgot to mention students are on the task force as well. Thank you.
Look, I actually saw it, Dr. Beasley. I'm getting a little proficient here with this screen. Ms. Bowles, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, for the record, I think that innovation is the right direction. I think that school will never look the same, and it's right for us to have many plans. I also think it would behoove us to, rip the Band-Aid off, for lack of a better word or phrase. I think that, sending students to school in the fall based on all the guidelines and information we have now would be nothing short of irresponsible, and that for us to tell our parents that and present some of the amazing options that you all have presented when it comes to virtual is going to be the best way for our families to prepare, not only economically, but emotionally. And I would go so far as to say, I'm kind of kidding, but I'm kind of not. But until the White House opens back up for visits, or until the Vatican welcomes back services, our Black, brown, and white kids and Asian kids here in Clayton County should not be subjected to any trials and errors, just like we wouldn't in our more affluent communities. So I also thank you all for the options you're preparing and providing. But I think, we know what we should not do, and maybe should just name it as soon as possible.
We agree with that, all of that.
Yes. And you went to DC. Let's find out when the
governor's mansion.
When the governor's mansion will be open. That's a good indicator. Okay.
Ms. Goree, did you see the video about that? About not doing anything until the White House is open.
I know which one you're referring to.
Right. Okay. All right, Dr. Beasley.
Okay.
Go ahead with the proposed agenda from the superintendent and chair.
Okay. At this time, we're going to start with our business services. So Ms. Emma Benton will come and present all of her items.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello. Yes.
Okay, hello. Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Beasley, and community. We have provided the board with a summary of the district's current financial status as of April 2020. Our general fund budget shows the fund balance as of April 20th, April 2020 at $136.5 million. Revenue for the month of April was $36.7 million, and expenditures were $36.9 million. As a result of the pandemic, we are seeing some savings in certain expenditures. For example, in utilities, We're spending less money, obviously, year over year when we look at our utility costs. For the month of April, the same with travel as well as other services. And that would be, for example, transportation costs such as gasoline. Um, these savings are being offset by the additional expense that we are incurring as a result of the pandemic. For example, the additional food, supplies that we're providing for PPE and making sure that we have the appropriate supplies to clean facilities, in addition to that, hazard pay. So while we're seeing a savings for some of our regular normal operating items, such as, and I think that amount is about 580,000. We've spent close to $1 million on some of the other things that's been impacted the district as a result of the pandemic. Are there any questions about the financial report?
Do we have any questions, board members?
No.
No, at this time.
I don't.
Nothing from me.
Okay,
I will-
I'll go directly into I'll go directly into the SPLOST revenue report. The SPLOST report is showing, the revenue is showing the monthly revenue, the cumulative revenue, and our average collection to date. The board can see in the executive summary, I think it's on page 3. I just want to highlight it for your attention. We can see that SPLOST revenue year over year is declining. And we talked about this last week. You know, when you close down the economy, obviously, we're going to see less money coming in for SPLOST. And so again, the report reflects that. You can see the amount we collected in April of last year and also April of this year. Are there any questions regarding the SPLOST revenue report?
Are there any questions, board members? Because I call myself being smart and now I can't see anybody but Dr. Beasley. If you have any comments, please go ahead. All right, I don't think if anyone has any.
Okay, I'll move directly to the purchasing report. The board has for review the purchasing report for April 2020. Reports A and B is for information only. This month, we have included, for your information, a minority business enterprise report. Report A includes consumable purchases, which are over 10,000. Again, that's for the board information only. And then, of course, report B is also over $10,000, and there are 16 vendors listed on that. And then we have our contract report, which requires the board approval, and these are requests that are over $50,000. Are there any questions?
Do we have any questions, board members?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Williams.
On that Teach, what is it, Teach America thing, that's like $800,000. When I asked the question, they said that's for benefits. For how many teachers are we paying benefits for with that money?
Good evening, members of the board, Board Chair Superintendent Beasley. That amount of money is approximately for 125 teachers that we would get from contracted teaching services.
Okay. And that just covers their benefits for the year?
Correct. It's called an administrative fee, and out of that fee, they pay the benefits for those employees, for those teachers.
Okay.
May I jump in, Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Ms. Benton. Thank you for your report as well as the minority vendor report. It's what I want to say is more of a statement, kind of a question. You know, I don't know about y'all, but there's a lot that keeps me up at night these days. There's plenty of things to worry about. But from, you know, the COVID crisis and the pandemic, the economic fallout, Ahmaud Arbery, there's so many things to fight for. So what I do is I think about what is in my locus of control. and just try to channel any of the action and power that I do have. And I'm going to pick one thing. That's my personal commitment. And the one thing that I have chosen to be labor and fight for here at Clayton County Public Schools until it's done and I can move on to the next thing, is our budget and the way that we spend our money as the largest budget holder in the county. I too wish I had a stronger voice in the strategic planning process. I feel like we should be a part of the vision setting process. Parent PD is something I want to fight for. You know, so many things. So I don't want it to seem like those things aren't important. But this is something that literally keeps me up at night. And by this, I mean, I'm looking at our monthly contract approvals. We're talking, you know, maybe $5 or more million this month alone. And I appreciate that it says that nobody was small, local, Black, brown, women, or veteran. But it said that last month, and it said that the month before and the month before. And I just want this to become a priority such that we begin to redistribute our budget to local, small, Black, brown, women, and veterans. So I understand all the conversations we've had, but I want to lift this point again, not only to Ms. Benton, but to Dr. Beasley. And I will be you know, this is going to be my thing. So whether it's the policy to make it so, the learning curve to change our mindsets and culture, whatever it is, this is wrong. And 100% of our money, if it's not going to local, small women, Black, brown, or veterans, 100% is going to white male businesses. And it's just wrong. And I want to see it change. So I don't really have a question right now. I appreciate you preparing the report, but at some point, I hope this makes others uncomfortable more than just me and becomes a priority for our district. Thank you.
Well, I will add to that. It is a priority for me. The problem is I hope that if there are people that are watching us now, because it's something that I have championed. I wish that in order for us to change that, we need participants. And I hope that we have other people that will look at Clayton County, and when the next time we have something listed to bid on, that those people will submit a bid. Because I particularly see one company who's there, and I did ask the question, and hopefully somebody will email me the answer as to whether or not that company is contributing to our foundation, because it's very important that if we are going to continue to give projects to a group, I think that they need to be very supportive of our students. And I'm looking at just this whole pandemic, and as I said, I think it's from the higher power for all of us to take a good look at ourselves and care about each other more. But it's amazing when we look at jobs, how the mighty have fallen. When we look at some of these companies that before March they were thriving, and many of them are now filing for bankruptcy. And you know, I'm not gonna call the name of one, but you know, one we had was contributing to us, and they're, you know, these sitting right in our county, but nobody's doing anything for our children, and they'll donate to everybody else, but they won't donate to us. So I think it's a good, you know, to take a good inward look at ourselves and know that, you know, that mighty can come down at any time. Just, you know, so.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Madam Chair, because I think, you know, I take it for myself. I'm writing letters to Congress, advocating at a national level. We are building relationships and have relationships with our state senators and representatives to have, you know, state advocacy. But we all know that you can tell a lot about a system or a person by where the budget is. And so before we advocate up, I want to make sure that we start to take care of home by just reshifting and rethinking some of the local power we have. No one's coming to save us, and that is very clear. So it's up to us to make these things matter. I appreciate you agreeing.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Dr. Beasley. I can't see anybody but one person. Somebody needs to text to me how to change my screen.
I think that may have been Mr. Christmas.
Okay,
I just had a comment.
go ahead.
Something wrong with my Delta 88.
Your what?
It's Delta 88.
Do we have any more comments?
No, it's
Um,
fine.
If not, Miss Benton.
Miss Baker just came.
I have one if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Look,
think
if somebody would text to me how to change my screen, I can see everybody.
Ms. Corey, just
Go
hit
ahead,
the
Ms.
screen.
Baker.
Miss Corey.
Yes. Go
Just
ahead.
I think we need to talk to our vendors. I noticed on one of those, the company had a Hispanic surname on it, but it was not listed as a minority or any others. So if they do not, and my understanding is if they do not represent themselves or declare themselves, then we can't do it either. So we need to educate them on how to list themselves so that we have a more proper understanding of if we truly do have minority or women or the different groups.
Ms. Corey?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Ms.
Ever
Burrows.
since I've been on the board, I've heard that most of the minority businesses are not competitive with their prices. And remember now, we usually go with the lowest bid. So that's a problem. We either are going to have to pay them what they ask for, or take the lowest bid. Well, it needs to be discussed a whole lot more than just, always complaining about it. Are we going to go on and pay them more or try to save money? I think that's one of the big problems with the minority businesses.
I don't find that this is that binary, that it's pay them more or opt out. I think that the purpose of our education system should be to prepare and provide for economic freedom. And so that looks like education in our classroom for our kids, but it looks like with the budget we have access to right now, wielding it just and righteously. And so, yeah, for sure, take the lowest bid, make sure that we're being fiscal stewards. But that is not an excuse to completely leave out, I would say, a subset of people, but multiple subsets of people. And I find, again, there's going to be folks who pick up the battle for the classroom. There's going to be all of us who have our different things. Like, this is my thing. And we'll do this every meeting, every time as it changes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to speak.
Yes, Mr. Stryker.
Yeah, I was going to try to be very quiet through this entire discussion, but I think that we have to realize that we have a social and economic responsibility, especially when our demographics are Black and Hispanic and lower income individuals. We need to understand that every time a vendor comes from our community, receives money from our system, they're most likely going to reinvest that money back to that same system 8 times, which then gives us the economic power to build our community. So I think that we as a board have to commit to the fact that this is important to us. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
May I say something?
Yes, Ms. Johnson.
Okay. Are we sure that these minorities, Black, brown, women, whatever, are registered vendors in our school system? Don't they have to go to some sort of class or workshop to be registered vendors in our school system?
Yes.
And how do we make sure that the word is out that these people need to register so that we can use them?
And that's my point, Ms. Johnson, exactly what you just said. I think our responsibility to make sure that that happens. So it's not a matter of complaining or disregarding the minority businesses. It's just our social responsibility to make sure that we have an aggressive outreach to these individuals.
How do we do that?
We
That's-
have more meetings and get people to know about the meetings. Advertise better.
Yes, well, that is what I'm saying. I understand Ms. Bowe's point, and I've been saying the same thing for all these years, but like I said, we are not getting the participation to come. They're not coming. I don't know what we need to do to get people to come, but I think that even if they come, I think that someone probably still needs to do some training with them as far as Ms. Burrows mentioned, the lowest bid. That's generally what we go with. And it seems that there's a science with going with the lowest bid. I don't think we should always go with the lowest bid myself, because I've seen on several occasions that the lowest bid we've gone with has actually caused us more problems, in that we've had to go back and do some things, have our own department clean up some things that have already been paid for by another company. So,
and I think, you know, one of my goals is to raise, you know, our awareness around this issue and make it a priority, as so many of my colleagues have stated. So I do think this deserves to be not only a separate conversation, but a continuous commitment to continue to have these conversations. And I also want to say, you know, nobody was here when this system was designed in a way that wasn't best fit for all. But now that we are here, I do think, as Mr. Straker said, it's our social responsibility and ethical responsibility. So if we can commit to making this a priority, we should totally deem this committee worthy, task force worthy, or some other way that we're able to say that this matters. So thank y'all for engaging on this issue. It's very important.
And I'm gonna say one more thing regarding I'm gonna get you, Dr. Anderson, in regards to it. I'm gonna say too that I think our staff has made it a priority, because they keep adding more and more reports to you know, that have been requested, because actually the reports, when I saw the report today, I mean, they're actually getting to the point where they're redundant, because on one report that we get, it tells us whether they're a minority, and then they gave us another report. And I think our staff is really working as hard as they can. I think they're listening to us and they're doing their best. But I'm gonna say again, we can generate reports, we can keep having this conversation, but until we get people to come and bid, and I've reached out to people, and I mean, I don't know what I need to do. Maybe I need to go get those people and take them by the hand and walk them into business services and go talk to Miss Brewer or whatever. And, you know, and then, but that's just not happening. So, you know, I think we're doing our part. Go ahead, Dr. Anderson.
I'm going to say too, as a board, and Ms. Bowles, I know you've been on our board for a minute now, but as a board, when we go to different places around the country, we recruit for minorities, businesses to come to the board when we're at NSBA, GSBA. I know a lot of you all can attest for that. I ask them, come to Clayton County. Come. And when I see them the next time, a lot of times, Ms. Bowles, I say, well, why haven't you come in? Well, I said, look, you can't go by what you hear. You have to come in and see what's going on. I don't know if there's some type of model or business model that we can follow, or find out what other companies are doing to bring in minority businesses. But I think that we need to research and find out and look at some data and what some other companies are doing, whether it's training, anything else. And also, again, I just want to say proactively, as a board, I know that I've been with Ophelia, I've been with Miss Ophelia, Miss Burrows, I've been with Miss Gorey, Mr. Straker, and we've said, hey, come to Clayton County, do business with us. But like you said, we need to be more progressive, and we need them to be more progressive. So it takes all of us working together, and you have my support, and we're going to continue to do that. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Christmas.
To comment on what Dr. Anderson said, the county and the water authority apparently has a process in which they attract Black minority business and it's certified. So we might want to look into them, collaborating with them, seeing how we can do this.
Yeah, we need to look at models, different models, whether, like you said, Mr. Christmas, whether it's with the water authority, see what the city of Atlanta does, and other businesses, so we can see how they attract those minority businesses.
Mr. Straker, are you trying to say something?
No, I was just simply saying that Chicago Public Schools is a fine example of how you engage minority and women-owned businesses. They have a very aggressive program that has been nationally recognized.
Okay, I saw your mic is still on. Yes, but you mentioned Mr. Christmas mentioned Clayton County, but I think if you look at their record, we're about in the same boat with the county and the school district. And I don't know if it's reputation, as Dr. Anderson said. I'm not sure what it is. If maybe it's the perception. So it's just something that we need to work on. And I will send a couple of names that I have that are minorities that I will send to the business services, and maybe we can look at those companies for consideration. Okay, Ms. Burrows, your mic is on. Did you have something to say?
No.
Okay. Well, I think we've probably beaten this horse.
Well, Madam Chair.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Mr. Stryker had a great suggestion about Chicago Public Schools having the ability and the certification on getting minority businesses in. I think this may be something we need to look at. I mean, if we're going to really be truly about Clayton County and making Clayton County better, we should be able to have those in our county who can do the work, do it. And so I think we need to look into any format that is certified and doing excellence in recruiting minority businesses. We need to look into it.
Oh, no, I don't have a problem with that. Not only does, we're talking about going as far as Chicago, I believe, we could look to Atlanta as a model, but I'm open for any of this. Like I said, I've been advocating for this for some time, and I just need people I need some of those people that we've talked to step up to the plate. And like I said, so that's fine with me. Send any suggestions. We'll be happy to consider them. Okay, are we ready to move on? Have we kept Miss Benton? Have you finished yet? Are we?
No, we need to talk about the FY 2021 tentative budget for adoption.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you all for your comments on the MBE Minority Business Enterprise, and I'm sure there's more work to come and more discussion to come. So as we turn our attention to the FY 2021 tentative budget for adoption, the Board of Education was provided preliminary information on March the 14th. Since that time, as the board is aware, COVID-19 has had a sweeping impact on the global society. The physical impact for the pandemic appears to be very broad. As the Board of Education is aware, the Department of Education shared with us about a month ago that we should project a preliminary reduction in state revenue of 14%. And as I shared with the Board of Education, the beginning of this month, that 14% reduction for Clayton County would be about $50 million reduction in state revenue. And we are projecting also a decrease in local revenue from property taxes of about $10 million. I shared with the board several months ago, and then of course we've had many discussions on our general operating fund balance. In 2019, the Board of Education knows and the community know we were able to strengthen our fund balance by over 300%. This year, FY20, we are again on track to strengthen our fund balance even more. And so as a result of this, the district will utilize some of the savings from the general operating funds to offset the reduction in state and local revenue in the FY 2021 budget. So as I've shared, the projected reduction in revenue is approximately $60 million. So in the tentative operating budget, we are projecting revenue of about $430.8 million for FY21. Again, that's almost a reduction of $60 million. We are projecting expenditures at $487.6 million. We are including the CARES Act to kind of help offset some of the reduction. And we talked about that again several weeks ago. Clayton County was allotted about approximately 17 million. So we'll use some of those millions of dollars to kind of help offset some of the reduction in revenue that we're going to get from the state of Georgia. In this projection, I am including $40 million in our savings to kind of use to, again, offset some of the reductions that we're going to see for sure. So in the executive summary, you know, all of these numbers are listed here for the Board of Education. It is the recommendation that our millage rate remain at 20 mills. I've included in the report for FY 2021 some budget assumptions. So I won't read all of those to the Board of Education and to the community, but right now I'll just highlight a few of those things at this time. We all know that you know, based on the information we know today, that there will be approximately a $6 million reduction. Furlough days are currently not recommended for the FY 2021 budget. However, if revenue cuts are more than projected, or if this pandemic extends for a long period of time, meaning, you know, longer than 6 months, longer than a year, where our revenue in the state of Georgia will be impacted, we may have to consider furlough days. In order to also meet the reduction, the $60 million reduction across the board, all of the staff has reduced their budget, the operating budget, by 15%, and that's been a savings for us of approximately $8 million. Of course, the Board of Education, I know we discussed this last month, that we were going to increase our budget on the operating side of the house by $7.3 million. That's to include extended learning beyond the classroom. That's one-to-one devices for all of our students. In addition to some of the items I've already mentioned, the compensation phase 3 and 4 project are temporarily on hold. We discussed back in March some of the things that we were looking at to make sure that in Clayton County we are competitive with our pay, specifically our teachers' pay. And so we had some plans there, but those plans have been put on hold. In addition to phase 3 on hold, also phase 4 on hold. Of course, when funding permits, we will resume the compensation piece. Due to the impact of COVID-19, employees paid on the teacher's scale will receive a step for their years of experience. No employees are projected to get an increase at this time. And also, let me just highlight this. While we are projecting that our fund balance will end at about 115 million, and we know that's a very strong number. We've come from a long place over the very low place over the last 2 years to 115 million. At this time, we are not sure about a TAN, that is a tax anticipation note. We don't know if it's going to be necessary. Our fund balance is strong, it's healthy. However, with the projection in lower revenue from the state, we may need a TAN. So we'll wait to hear from the Department of Education by the end of June and do a better analysis, cash flow analysis. So are there any questions about the tentative budget, proposed tentative budget?
Ms. Bowles, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Benton. I'm wondering, I see the $7.3 million allocated for extended learning beyond the classroom, and that is for one-to-one. On the very next line, it says the same thing in blue, but says optional. And I'm wondering if that is a different 7.3 million or if that is that same 7.3 million that I'm looking at.
It is the same 7.3 million.
Okay, why are we calling it optional?
It's just an optional expense. Well, at this stage, it's not really optional, but it's adding to our, it's adding to the budget. So it's adding, I'm sorry, so it's adding to the FY20 budget. So our current budget, the 7.3 million adds to that amount. So we start off the budget process as, you know, whatever our total budget was for this year, and then we kind of add or take away from it. And so that's why it's optional, but obviously it's not optional now because we're moving forward with that process. The board voted, I think last month, to include it. So I just wanted to make sure that it was reflected in the 21 budget.
Gotcha. Thank you for explaining that. I'm also was wondering the CARES funding revenue. I wondered how much we got from the CARES Act so far. And so I think some of the CARES Act could be used for technology or no. I'm wondering if that 7.3 is in addition to, like you said, are we taking 7.3 from the CARES funding revenue? Or did it all just go in the one bucket, or how are we portioning what is pandemic related expenditures so that, you know, the CARES funding revenue is allocated the right way, right space?
Yeah, okay, I understand what you're asking. So the 7.3 million for the computers for the project of one-to-one devices is included in our general operations budget. The CARES Act, obviously we are projecting a budget for the CARES Act, but we're using that revenue to cover some of the additional expenditures that we know that we're going to have based on the pandemic. Let me see. So it's not, this is not separate money. It's just, I mean, it's the CARES Act. We have to, in terms of how we're reporting it internally, we've set up an internal tracking. We have a fund where we can kind of track all of the money from the CARES Act. But in addition to that, the expenditures we're able to track because we set up project codes internally so we can track those. But even beyond that, we do have a budget that, you know, we're working on to make sure that we have enough money. That's for the CARES.
Thank you, Ms. Benton.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I think we're done with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Benton.
Thank you, Ms. Benton. At this time, Ronick Joseph will come with the construction SPLOST information.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Beasley. You have before you the SPLOST construction update for the month of May 8 Payments were made totaling $6.8 million. There were no change orders executed. At this time, I will be glad to answer any question that the board may have.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Dr. Anderson.
Hey, Mr. Joseph, I was just trying to find out, with everything that's going on, how's construction going with Morrow High School, and where are we now with our construction?
So we have broken ground at Morrow High School. If you go to our website, you will see a video giving you an aerial perspective of ongoing work as well as photographs. But in summary, grading is ongoing as well as underground utilities, and constructing the building pad is ongoing as well.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Joseph, we've started on the new elementary school as well in the south part of the county.
Yes, ma'am. So if you go to our website under the construction department, you will see videos showing the progress as well as some photographs. We are a little bit further ahead on that project. You can actually see a structural steel going up as.
Okay, I just wondered because I know you kept trying to get us to come and do a groundbreaking, and every time we were scheduled to do it, we got rained out. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
okay.
I told you I will see you guys at the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Right, we're at the ribbon cutting, right. Okay. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, Dr. Beasley.
Thank you, Ronnie. At this time, we'll have Dr. Wilson with the Human Resources Report.
Good evening again, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, other members of the board, Superintendent Beasley, and community members. The Personnel Changes Report summarizes all personnel actions for the period of April 22nd through May 14th, 2020. For this reporting period, there are 293 teacher vacancies. For the same reporting period last year, there were 450 teacher vacancies. Additionally, I would like to provide an update on contract distribution for the 2021 school year. There were 2 rounds of contracts issued to employees. The last round of contracts were distributed on May 8th. In terms of results, there were about almost 3,500 contracts issued, 3,497. Of that number, 3,340 were returned. So that's about a 96% return rate. There may be some decline in that number or that percentage due to employees having an option to be released from their contract prior to June 15th as designated or informed by the PSC. And finally, just a quick update, you should have received a notification of a new employee assistance program that the board approved back in March 2020. That program is effective to all employees and their immediate families effective March 22nd. I'm sorry, May 22nd of this month. That concludes the personnel changes report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question.
Go
Yes,
ahead, Ms. Johnson.
Do we have any freeze on hiring at the moment?
It's a soft freeze that we have, and it's being slowly increased as time goes on and information is received. Once the budget is passed, it appears that all positions will be clear for hiring at that time. But the number of teacher vacancies I shared with you, that is inclusive of all the teaching positions, regardless of what level they're able to hire at. So once that freeze is released, we don't anticipate that great of a challenge in filling the majority of those remaining vacancies. But the goal was not to overhire and then have to have a reduction in force and lay individuals off.
Right. Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Beasley, I saw a comment that you placed in the chat box. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, I should share. I hope that Dr. Duncan may be on the call, but she had over 1,000 people to attend a recent TAP interest meeting, And now you all know we can't hire all 1,000 people, but we do have a good crop of individuals that we can select from. And so I want to say that's the first that I've ever heard. And Dr. Wilson may have more something else to share, but I've never heard of that many people coming to a tap interest meeting. That is phenomenal. So I want to commend our professional learning department. I often say they have a little university over there, a teacher preparation college right there, right here in Clayton County Public Schools. And so I want to commend Dr. Duncan and her team, Ave, for all that they're doing to pique the interest of persons to come into the field of education, but most importantly, to prepare those that choose to work in our school system. And our data tells us that they are some of the more highly effective teachers, and they do very well with teaching our students. And so we want to just commend the professional learning department for an awesome tap interest meeting. And I anticipate that we'll get some great candidates out of that number of persons who attended. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions? And I need you all to please mute those mics. If you can mute your mic. I see most everybody's mic is on. The only one that should be on right now, Dr. Beasley, yours should be on, but I'm looking at others. Ms. Burroughs, can you mute your mic?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ooh.
I finally unfroze my screen. All right, go ahead, Dr. Beasley.
No, Ms. Gorey, I think
okay.
that concludes our presentations, and now we go to board matters.
Yeah, that's right. We are on board matters. Okay, we're back on the policies. I ask everyone to go back and read over policy series I that we had pulled it. And I read, I was looking at some of the comments that Ms. Bowles had sent in, and also Dr. Beasley had given a pretty good, given an explanation for them. So I think that we're on track for those. I think that'll be on the agenda for next week to vote on. Do we have anybody that has any comments on Series I? Okay.
Sorry.
Yes,
Just
go ahead.
quick comment. The concerns I raised remain unaddressed, but again, we can vote on it next week. That's my comment.
Well, we're open now. I looked at, I thought that I saw everything that you raised addressed. I know one thing in particular, I think that I saw one of your concerns was regarding, I believe it was maybe students not returning materials and they're not being able to participate in graduations. And I thought that I saw an explanation from Dr. Beasley.
Yes, ma'am. I actually am least concerned with that because I think another comment, in addition to Dr. Beasley's emailed response, was like, common sense of our staff. And I trust that no staff would prevent any scholar in our district from receiving the materials they need due to economic reasons. My main concern is more about the equity component of this policy and the fact that there's no disparity study, commitment to make a disparity study, recurring biannual disparity study. There seems to be no anchor, and that is troubling. So.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Because I think for those particular, when I looked at that, generally, what happens with I saw a couple of things about if they didn't return things. I think that we do have something in place. So, for example, if they have lost the book, they can't be reissued a book. They have access to materials. But I know myself, I have personally, during a graduation, I had a little girl that actually, and but she got to the bookkeeper, and I think the bookkeeper said that she owed $80. which meant that she was not going to be able to participate. I actually had $80 in my pocket, and I paid for her so that she could participate. But I also think that, you know, that our scholars do need to be responsible they need to have some responsibility. If we even go back to that long mission statement that Dr. Wiley presented to us, that we do need to make our scholars responsible for some things. And I think most of the children, you know, understand it. I haven't seen, I really can't recall any kid that we have kept from walking other than, you know, someone that just didn't make the grades to walk. And I've even advocated for some of those students because some of it fell on us, but that went back to when we were at when waivers. We had failed to apply for waivers for them, and we're not in that situation anymore with our graduation test. That's really what it boiled down to.
I think that is some of the strongest part of this policy. Again, I think that part I'm not even as concerned with because I trust, you know, the folks who will be responsible for wielding that power and making that decision. And actually, the equity policy is beautifully written. I think it's actually missing like one sentence that says we commit to doing a disparity study or something, some reference to some study that is data driven, just because equity is beautiful when we say it, but it's going to look different in Clayton County. And so I want to know that we don't have to cite the study itself, but I think that, you know, we have an obligation to be as data driven as possible. And I just don't see any link to how we're going to measure ourselves on equity without a thing that we measure just like we do for our students in the classroom. And again, the language is lovely. I don't have a problem with that at all. But I think that this should refer to some type of anchor by which we will use to measure ourselves and our growth.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Corey,
Yes.
in the policy, it reads, and we can always put the exact language as Ms. Bowles has shared, disparity study. It says that we're committed to explicitly identifying and addressing, and the only way we could identify would be through a study. I know the equity and compliance, but if that's language that the board wants us to include specifically in this policy, we can. I don't know if it's always called a disparity study. It may be called something different, but the point is that we identify and address the disparities or the differences in educational outcomes, and that would be through a study of some sort. I'm sure we could title it whatever you all think is the best language.
Dr. Beasley, I think that's a reasonable solution. I agree. I see the reference to measure a thing. My problem is that, like you said, let's call it whatever we want to call it and name our commitment to measure that.
So Damaris is listening, and we'll have her go back and work on and wordsmith that.
Okay, but Dr. Beasley, we are so this is what I've been asking for is I see questions, and I have not seen anything in writing, and I've asked the board for something specific for us to send, to add, to change. That was why the last meeting we pulled this, and we're if Ms. Bowles, if you could send something specific so that we can look at it. That was what I asked you all to do last time. And that's why
Madam Chair, but I'm happy to restate it. But that was the initial commentary.
Okay, because I went back and read over everything. I asked everybody to look, and I see, even because I'm gonna tell you something, we have never even gotten B policies passed. I've asked and asked and asked, and what I'm gonna do with that, I'm just gonna write them, and I just send them because I keep asking, and we can't. And when so that's what I was trying to get from the board, because see, the thing is one person can't change it. So if you send it, and that's why I was asking everybody to reread, then we can all agree that that is what we want to do. Because it's just like with me, I'm ready to go into these next policies, the R policies. So Ms. Bowles is going to send us something And then we need to agree, board, so we can vote on this next week. Because otherwise we're going to be going into July. And I think we've been, since this is May, April, March, we've been 3 months trying to get this, but it has to be collective. So when she sends it, if you all will give your opinion one way or the other, so we can vote. And Ms. Bowles, will you, on that particular issue, can you send us like the page or whatever? Because it looks like maybe everything else might be all right, because they may not really know where to look at, but I
Madam
myself
Chair,
want to go back.
I'll do exactly whatever you need me to do. My quick
Okay.
question is, the way that Dr. Beasley just explained the solution is the only change that needs to happen, which is the addition of that like sentence that names a commitment to do a report or study. So do you need me to send that, or are you okay with him adding that?
Well, I think what I'm saying is, will you just send it to us anyway, so that everybody else can go back and look and see exactly where it is in the policy?
It's
Because
not
I'm
in the policy, though.
no, I'm talking about what you're adding.
Mm.
Because everything is, it seems like everything else is fine, and I understand what he's saying, but we're still voting on it. But I think it still needs to be in black and white, so we'll know what you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next policies, which would be the first word on the first read of policy G. And I know that Ms. Williams had sent in, and I just wanted to actually kind of have a little discussion maybe on these, because one of the things that I'm concerned about is the reference to the drug testing. And I just want to make certain that we have analyzed everything, as far as, of course, we don't want teachers that are coming to school that have utilized drugs, but we had a situation before with one of the problems that we have at the state level is trying to determine the difference between marijuana and hemp. And I believe that, for example, like we had a little situation where, now that people can buy this oil, and the oil may give if a person ends up going to have to be, let's say they get injured on the job, and then we send them where they go to get tested at, and then they test positive. We need to really find out whether or not we're talking about a person that's actually used marijuana, or whether it's somebody that has used something that has the hemp in it. And I really don't want us dismissing people, because a lot of people use some of these things are prescriptions. And I just want to make sure that the policy that we have, Dr. Beasley, have we addressed all of that in this policy?
Well, I think that we have, and just remember, if people are using marijuana or whatever it's called by prescription, they just need to have their doctor's prescription in the event that they have to take a test for whatever reason. If they get injured and it comes up in the test, they need to have their doctor's prescription. So it really isn't an issue, whether it be marijuana or any other drug for that matter that's legal, if they have their doctor's prescription. And that's where we need to be consistent. And I believe the policy allows us to do just that. But I'll be quiet, and Damaris and Clem is there, our lawyer, and I'd like to hear from them.
We'd be happy to look at that issue, in particular instance where someone may be prescribed, and I don't know my oils very well, but low THC oil,
right,
and how that fits into the policy. So I'll be happy to get with Damaris and get back to the board and superintendent.
Okay, yeah, I'm just looking. I even had to take my glasses out because I can't read with them. I'm trying to make sure. I'm just trying to make sure that is here in black and white, because and then I guess my other issue is with the vacancies and transfer. And now that we put this on the table, these are my feelings regarding this 2-year rule that people can't transfer. I know that I'm a very outspoken person. I remember my first year teaching. I remember that by the time the first year was over, they hadn't even invented a professional development plan back in those days. But I was placed upon one because I disagreed with my principal regarding his special teacher, the chorus teacher, who would not take my students for specials, but she would pull them out for chorus. So of course, I was considered the troublemaker. So if you're the troublemaker, and then you got to stay with that principal another year, chances are your evaluation may not be so well. I know Dr. Wilson has explained to me about this. What he feels is that, a teacher needs to be somewhere 2 years, but I guess I just don't believe that. I think that I feel like a person ought to be able to transfer after the year, because sometimes you can just see that you just might not get along with that person. And if you're going to have a bad evaluation, then you just might need to move on. Come on, Dr. Beasley.
And Goree, we're gonna disagree here, but we're not gonna create a district where everybody not getting along with the principals and feeling like they can transfer all over the place, creating chaos. So we don't need to create that type of culture. I know I know, don't use yourself as an example now, because what we got to do is make sure people understand, like you can't transfer students from classroom to classroom when they're disruptive. You should not do that with an employee. And this is what I would say. If 2 years is enough time to determine whether or not they have a satisfactory evaluation, and then they can transfer. But if a person feels like from year to year, they can just transfer without any type of intervention or without any type of consideration or with impunity, you just can't create that type of culture. And I find me a policy of a high performing school system that allows people to do that, then I'll rethink it. Find that for me.
Well, I will look, but this is not about, I'm not saying that this is because see, just like what you just said, you kind of put it on the teacher that it's making it seem like the teacher is disruptive. That's my point. I'm trying to I think, because when you're in a school setting, the supervisor is the person that really holds the power. And what I'm saying is that sometimes just because a person might have an opinion, I just think that the principal and the teacher need to work together. I don't want to create a situation where the principal is looking like, okay, this person is just a little bit too mouthy, and they want to wield their hold that evaluation over their heads.
Well,
I've seen it happen too many times. I really wish we had we could put something in place where if we even have a situation like this, that maybe, I don't know if we need to have a mediator or whatever, but I just know that sometimes we do lose good teachers because of those particular situations.
But remember, we have structures in place for that. We've got, every principal has an assistant superintendent. And if there's a teacher issue or principal teacher issue, that's what the assistant superintendent is for, to mediate those situations. And I would agree with you. We're saying the same thing. The supervisor and those being supervised, they have to work together. But what we can't do is create a culture in our school system where people feel like I don't have to work with anybody. Therefore, as soon as I have an issue, I just transfer. Everybody's transferring instead of being adults and being professional and working with one another. So I mean, I understand your point, and we don't want principals, and nor would we expect our principals to behave and or leaders, division heads, department chairs, or department leads to behave in such a manner, and we'll hold people accountable. But I do think that all of them have to work together, and we've got to ensure that we're transferring people that are worthy to be transferred. If they're not doing well in one location, they're not satisfactory in their evaluation outcomes, why should they be allowed to go to another campus? They need to correct that. And if it's not a fair process, then that's another issue.
Well, I think I'm gonna reread this, and I think maybe we need to add a little something else in there that protects both entities, because that's, because that's probably why we have, turnover, and we want to retain good teachers. So like I said, that sounds good. That sounds, because I don't see that though in this policy.
But
Yeah,
let's make sure I want to make sure we're clear. We're making data-driven decisions. We're making policy based on our data.
Right.
I'm not aware, unless the staff and others can tell me differently, I'm not aware of a slew of those type situations occurring in our school system.
Well, no, because what happens is we see it on the personnel report, because they can't do the transfer, that they hop from place to place. But I could pull up some data, but like I said, those are things that happened in the past. I just want us to be fair to employees.
No, I understand. I agree with that totally.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Good
Okay.
evening, Dr. Beasley. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, my apologies, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, superintendent, and the community at large. I'm actually on my phone as well as my computer. I'm having issues hearing on my computer, so I'm on my phone as well. I was actually trying to pipe in to just give a quick response to the concerns relative to the drug and alcohol-free workplace policy. So we did look into that issue, and there are some differences between the CBD oil and the low THC oil. The CBD oil in most instances should not reflect on the test, but the low THC oil does. But as Dr. Beasley indicated, in Georgia, as passed by the legislature, individuals are required to carry low THC approval. They have a card that's actually issued by the Georgia Department of Public Health, and it's called a low THC oil registry card. So those employees who do test positive, they do have the ability to bring in that prescription, and that follows with anyone who tests positive of any controlled substance. What they're required to do is to bring in a prescription so that we can see that it's authorized. Now, to the point, the only challenge is the test comes up and just says it's positive for marijuana. It's impossible for the district staff to really know what a person has utilized unless they bring in that prescription. And there is an ability for the person to be legally authorized to utilize the medical marijuana. So what we've done is gone back, looked at that policy. We added that language in. We did see where Ms. Williams asked if we would actually put that in another place. So we want to ensure that it's very clear to employees that they're going to be required to submit that actual prescription. And it does have to ensure, they do have to ensure that it's actually in accordance with Georgia laws. So there are going to be some other components and some other documents that the employees will receive, and they receive those from the testing facility if they do test positive, to advise them of what information they'll have to bring into the district to show that they're legally authorized to have that controlled substance in their system.
Ms. Garrett, where is that in what we have on eBoard? What page is that?
And let me go in, and I hear I'm gonna mute myself because I'm actually hearing the echo, but since I'm on two different ones, so I'm gonna mute. Okay, so apparently you can't hear me on my phone, so let me mute myself.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can? Okay, so if
Yes.
you'll go in, it's on, and I see I do hear an echo, so my apologies. Yeah, see, I hear that echo. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can actually.
You're fine right
Okay.
now.
Can you guys hear me on the computer now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, good. So let me go in. It's actually, if you go to, it's on the policy. And it is on under Gamma, and I'm looking, it's actually on page, if you're scrolling down, Ms. Goree, it's the third policy. And if you will look where we're going to add it, we're going to add it under the definitions. But if you look down at the bottom, it does indicate that the individual, it's under continuation. For a second. Oh, here it is. It's under a license. It's going to be under the reasonable suspicion. It's under, hold on one second. I saw it last night. It would come up. Oh, it's under B, under the pre-employment testing and the reasonable suspicion testing. If you look down, it indicates that it shall not include any drug or substance when used pursuant to a valid medical prescription. And documentation must be provided for a positive drug test result. And that's actually to Miss Williams' point. It's actually in the bottom of the policy, so we're going to actually embed that language up closer as well, so individuals will see it in multiple places and they'll understand that that's actually fluid throughout the policy for any instance where we actually test an employee, which would be the pre-employment, post-offer pre-employment, if it's reasonable suspicion, post-offer, post-accident or random testing, any instance where there's a positive test, an individual will be allowed the opportunity to provide that medical documentation.
Okay. We just need to make sure it's in several places like you mentioned.
Okay, we will do.
Okay.
Miss Corey.
Yes.
Miss Corey.
Yes.
My question goes back under that same gamma policy, page 5. And under definitions, it says detectable amount of THC. In a previous situation, we had a person who tested positive taking CBD oil. There's got to be levels that are what are considered high or in the system or whatever, because honestly, you can buy CBD oil on Amazon and 17 locations between my house and Fayetteville. So I would be looking for some kind of level that if they do test positive, it would be a level that would show that it was use versus pain relief or whatever. So I'd like to see if we could do something like that other than just detectable, because if CBD oil is detectable, then some people aren't going to have a prescription for it.
Yeah, and there is a specific amount that's actually in Georgia law. They will allow what's called low THC oil, and it's without giving a too detailed description. It's basically oil that contains like 5% of that THC. What we can do is we can check and see if those tests, those drug testing facilities actually determine that. But right now, the majority of them, if you have any indication of the THC oil in your system, is going to register, because the research that we found was that most CBD oil should not have the THC component, but the low THC oil does. So what we can do is we can get with those two testing facilities and see if, given the changes in the law, we've not heard any. We met with them prior to the closure, right before the closure, just to see if there has been any change or if there have been any tests that are actually, if they allow, I would guess to say if it's more sensitive, and if there are any that actually detect that. Otherwise, the only way we will be able to be consistent and to actually ensure that all employees are treated the same is that if that THC level does detect, which means that in that instance that that individual must have utilized some type of oil that actually has the THC oil in it. And so we would ask for that medical documentation, which would be consistent with the law that allows for individuals to utilize the low THC oil. Otherwise, we'll just continue to look and see if there's a way for us to know. Otherwise, we'll have to use the standard that other organizations use. I don't think there's any way that the district staff would be able to determine that.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, thank you, Ms. Garrett.
My pleasure. If you guys have any other questions, please let us know.
Okay. All right, I believe that that's everything on the agenda under the board matters. And we're now at the business agenda, which means that we need to look at approval of the proposed agenda for June 1st. So if you all will look at it, and if we can get a motion for the agenda for June 1st?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the proposed agenda.
All right, I see Miss Baker and, okay, I saw Miss Bowles, but we'll go with Miss Dr. Anderson. So we have, it's been moved and properly seconded that we accept the proposed agenda for the June 1st board meeting. So I was getting ready to see if I could be smart and say I could check your votes by looking at your microphones, but I might mess my screen up. So I'm gonna just go down the row again. And let's go with Ms. Bowles, your vote.
Madam Chair, I have a question before this.
Yes.
Vote. Is that okay?
Mhm.
I'm looking at agenda item number 6, letter
Mhm.
A, and it says tentative adoption of the fiscal year 21 budget. I'm
Yes.
wondering, I feel this way about the strategic planning process, vision process, and this process, like input. I know it's a crazy time, but when does, I feel how I feel about my input, but when does this stuff go to the community for like budget hearings, as would normally be the case?
That the budget hearings will be in June. We always just approve the, vote on the tentative budget. The tentative budget doesn't mean that that's going to be the budget, because right now we don't know what the budget will be until the General Assembly, right? And hopefully by the time, from what I looked at, I think that Ms. Benton actually sent us some dates.
Executive summary has the dates.
Yeah, we have the dates, so we will have hearings for the budget and before we vote on the budget for the year. This is just the tentative budget.
Thank you. As long as we have hearings. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So in that case, my vote is yes for this item.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Christmas?
Yes.
Miss Williams?
Yes.
Miss Burrows?
Yes.
Miss Baker?
Yes.
Miss Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Straker?
Affirmative.
And yes for me. So we have so the agenda for the June 1st board meeting has been passed with a unanimous vote. And at this time, I believe that we have covered everything and we are at adjournment, and I think we've done pretty good. If I can just stop my computer from freezing, and I could have seen everybody's face the whole time. So we are officially adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Red phone.